Are you familiar with the recent case in Common Pleas of Philadelphia County, the Fraternal Order of Police versus City of Philadelphia with respect to secondary violations and primary violations?
Somewhat familiar.
Okay, and this is, I want to build on this, and there's a myriad of questions here and issues that I want to address through that. But you're familiar that the City of Philadelphia, as well as the City of Pittsburgh, I believe, have enacted ordinances to not permit their police officers to stop vehicles solely on certain offenses that they deem secondary offenses. You're familiar with that?
Yes.
And of that, there are several issues. The display of registration plate, periods of required lamps, other obstructions, operation of vehicle without a certificate of inspection, unlawful operation without evidence of an emission inspection. And that's what I want to kind of focus on with that, with respect to that. And I brought this up at other probes hearings, state police in particular, of, you know, that we are hearing instances of individuals that are not being pulled over because they're not permitted to, but they have a stolen vehicle that the police know is stolen, but it has a license plate that's whatever, manufactured, and they're not permitted to stop that individual, which I'm assured with the state police as well as with the new acting, or the new Attorney General, that we will be able to work through some of those issues to make sure that those violators are brought to justice. But with respect to the emissions, and that's something that I've been very vocal on since my time here in the Senate since 2017, and we've actually been on PCN call-in show a couple times, I think, and that was brought up that Cambria County, my home county, is required still to this day to have emissions inspections done, and neighboring counties around, there are certain counties that aren't required to do that inspection. And since the time that was enacted through the state implementation plan, and not to get too far into the weeds here, because it's, you know, like I've said before, that was probably easily top 3 most complex issues I've ever read as a lawyer. I mean, it's like you can get in, like those parking garages, you can get in with the teeth, but you can't get back out. It's just insane the ways they take you. But that being said, Cambria County has reached their attainment level for their air quality, the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. They've reached that, but they can't get out. And we've done bills, we've done resolutions, we've tried with the prior governor as well as prior secretaries to get that out, and there's answers that come back. No, we can't do it. We can't do it. The ozone transport region, other things, we're at risk of federal funding, things of that nature. So coming back to my initial question on this court case, there is conceivably, hypothetically, if you have a vehicle in the city of Philadelphia, if you drive that vehicle, you don't commit any other offenses, you don't give any other cause to be stopped, and you don't have an emissions sticker, you cannot be pulled over in the city of Philadelphia. So how is that fair to not just my constituents in Cambria County, but every other constituent in this Commonwealth that has to go through and has to get an emissions sticker, has to pay those dollars? They're law-abiding, but there are individuals conceivably in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia that choose not to get that emissions sticker, and their lucky day, I guess. Is your department aware of that? Are you willing to take any steps? And I know that you have the authority under Title 75, Section 6101, with respect to applicability and uniformity of title, that you can withhold certain funding to those municipalities that choose to enact these ordinances, which are in violation of state law. Understanding that, though, the section, I think, is ripe for interpretation, that you would need a court of competent jurisdiction to tell you that before you could take action. But I guess very broadly, are you aware of this issue? Is your department willing to take steps against those municipalities if this court case is appealed, or if this if a court of competent jurisdiction will give you that authority. And the second part, are you willing to work with myself and other members of this General Assembly that have counties that require emissions but have reached the attainment level to get those counties out of that emissions requirement?
So with that, last question first. The Department of Environmental Protection has a role here that matters. The Commonwealth State Implementation Plan submitted to the EPA is the guiding document, as you know. And any opening of that SIP brings with it the potential for other changes. For example, if you exclude Cambria County from the emission inspection current program, that would be a net reduction, I suspect, in the eyes of the EPA, guessing for the EPA, which is a fool's errand probably. But there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to the SIP. And there are other counties besides Cambria that are in that same boat. So I would say I'm happy to consider suggestions that you have. I would offer that the DEP folks need a seat at that table. And at the end of the day, we're going to need EPA to say yes, because at risk here are clean air dollars that flow to DEP and federal highway dollars that flow to PennDOT that are in the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And if any effort to change the SIP is going to have to get the approval from EPA. As a former legislator, I know that's always frustrating because essentially we're being dictated to by our federal partners, but you know, they have the federal dollars that they direct to our state for these various programs. With respect to the enforcement of the vehicle code as a uniform standard across the state, I'm aware of what you're describing in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. I would offer, Senator, that there are random townships across our Commonwealth that have enacted ordinances with respect to cell phone use while driving. And if we open the door that you're describing with respect to treatment of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, we also open that door to the treatment of small second-class townships or boroughs that have taken steps with respect to ordinances that are contrary to the provisions of the vehicle code as well. And I'm familiar with the section of the vehicle code that you're describing with respect to withholding of dollars. That would be an aggressive step, to say the least. But the reality is that we'd have to consider the range of consequences that would flow, not just to Pittsburgh and Philly, but to other townships in many counties across the state.
So by that rationale, or if I would tell every municipality in Cambria County, at your next regular scheduled meeting, adopt an ordinance telling your police officers that you will not pull over anyone that has that doesn't have an emission sticker. And then de facto, then Cambria County is technically out of the emissions, and if nobody could be pulled over, then no one would get emissions, and no one would have to.
Unless they travel in another county.
Right.
If your people from Cambria County go to the neighboring counties, it's possible they could be cited there. It's tough to answer hypothetical questions, but my suspicion is there's a lot of moving parts there.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. And again, I look forward to working with you.